Welcome to Leader, the podcast where we delve into the heart of leadership and education, exploring the journeys and practices of those shaping the future for Black and Brown students in charter schools. I'm your host, Darryl Cobb, president of the Charter School Growth Fund. In each episode, we sit down with exceptional leaders from the charter school community, unpacking not only their successes, but also the profound personal stories that compel them to lead. Our conversations aim to surface actionable insights and highlight what it takes to build a great school. Whether you're an educator, a leader, or someone passionate about the transformative power of education, there's something here for you. Let's discover together what makes these leaders tick, the challenges they've overcome, and the wisdom they've gained. Welcome back to another episode of Leader to Leader, an opportunity for us to talk with another amazing charter school leader. My name's Darryl Cobb. I'm your host, and I am so thrilled today to be with my good friend, Amanda Johnson, the Executive Director of Clarksdale Collegiate. Welcome, Amanda, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It is so good to have you here. I'm so excited to spend some time with you and help people get to know all the things that I love and admire about you. So, Amanda, I'd love for you to share with everybody Clarksdale Collegiate. People may not be familiar with Clarksdale. So tell us a little bit about Clarksdale. And I would love to hear both. There's probably a popular narrative about Clarksdale, and then what is it that you love?
Yeah, absolutely. So Clarksdale, Mississippi is the heart of the Mississippi Delta. So we are right on the Mississippi River. We sit about an hour south of Memphis. So if you go straight down 61, you'll run into 49. That's where Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil.
Yes.
So if you know anything about blues history,
to learn to play the guitar.
To play the guitar. So there's so much music, blues history, cultural history in Clarksdale. And so that's probably the most popular and most well-known thing about Clarksdale. You know, I go many places, and people know about Clarksdale because of the blues and because of the music, that rich history that's there. And then we also have people that come from all over the world to visit Clarksdale for that rich history. So that's probably the most well-known thing. And there's lots of other arts, cultural pieces, Tennessee Williams, Sam Cooke. There's so many wonderful individuals who are from Clarksdale or who learned and studied in Clarksdale and got inspired by Clarksdale and the people who are from there. The reason why I call Clarksdale home is really because of the people.
Okay.
So I love the Delta. I think that the people in Clarksdale and in the surrounding areas are just some of the most amazing people you'll meet. So of course my kids at the school are...
Your kids are at your school?
Well, okay, my personal kids, yes, but the kids at the school,
kids in general.
My scholars, who are my kids, my scholars are amazing, full of potential, full of talent, and just great people. Just excited about opportunity and to have great opportunities. Our families are amazing, and so when I just think about the Delta and why I call Clarksdale home is that small town. Getting to know your neighbor, getting to know the people at your job, the people who are at your school, the kids, being able to not just be at the school with them, but also cheer them on in the Pee Wee football, be able to go to the performance, to see them tap dance with the after school program, and to see all of that, and to see them in church on Sunday. I really enjoy that aspect of it, being able to not separate the schoolhouse from home and from the community.
We're going to come back later and talk a little bit about charters in rural communities. Lots of people don't think that can happen. So we'll, and can you just give a final thing about Clarksdale? How big is Clarksdale so that people have a sense of that?
Sure. So there are about 16,000, 17,000 people in Clarksdale. It's about 80% African-American, 20% white.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Very good. All right, well, before we get into the school and all the work that you do and hearing about your scholars, let's talk about your personal journey and what led you here.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about where are you from? And I know a little bit of this story because we first met when you were a very young teacher a long time ago. But tell us a little bit about the journey where you're from and how you got to being the executive director of Clarksdale Collegiate?
Sure. So I know I said I like small towns, but I'm from, I call it the big city of Little Rock, Arkansas. So it's a big city to me. And went to school in Memphis. And so I studied in Memphis and decided that I wanted to take do what you do and take a little break between trying to figure out the rest of your life. Yeah. So I decided to join Teach for America back in 2003. So I want to go back.
Let's go back to Little Rock.
Okay.
Tell me about young Amanda in Little Rock. What were your hopes? What were your dreams?
Yeah. I mean, I was very active.
Okay.
I did a lot of things outside of the classroom, leadership. I was senior class president. I was involved in Girl Scouts. I earned my Girl Scout Gold Award, which is the highest award that you can earn as a Girl Scout.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Not many of those in the country.
And so I probably spent more time on those activities rather than my homework because that was just what I enjoyed doing. I liked being out there. I liked meeting people. I did lots of things across the state. Was very involved in service in particular. I remember when I graduated, all of my scholarships were for community service.
Okay.
No merit scholarships. I mean, I did enough to get into school, but my scholarships were for community service and for leadership. So all of my scholarships were for that. In fact, I received one scholarship where instead of doing work study at school, it was the Bonner Scholarship. Instead of doing work study, I got to volunteer. So that was my work study. So the hours that I would have been in the post office at the school or in, the cafeteria, wherever, I was able to do that in the community of Memphis, volunteering my time. So that's what I did for my, work study for my scholarship. So I spent a lot of time just leading and just being out there and serving the community of Little Rock. Right. So that was my history growing up. I mean, I always remember my mom. My mom is still an active member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And what I knew about her and what I knew about Delta, all I knew was elephants and service. Like that's what I knew. I didn't understand what a sorority was, but I knew that my mom was out there in the community doing the work and that she was my Girl Scout leader. She taught me how to give back to the community. And so when I grew up, the most important thing was, what are we doing for others? And so that's what I spent a significant amount of my time doing. So that's how I ended up in Memphis at Rhodes College as a Bonner Scholar.
Okay.
And that's probably
And did you follow in your mother's footsteps while you were at Rhodes College?
So not while I was at Rhodes College, not Rho Gamma chapter, but after in Helena alumni chapter.
Okay.
So right after I graduated in 2004, was initiated in the Helena alumni chapter.
Okay.
So and that's when I was my first year teaching.
Yes.
So it was a busy year.
That was a very busy year. So let's fast forward.
Sure.
So you finish at Rhodes, and you decide, I want to maybe be a teacher. How did you land at maybe I want to be a teacher?
Yeah. So I didn't land there until after I started teaching. Okay. So I did decide, I was ready to do law school, was studying for the LSAT. I think I'd probably taken it once or twice and decided, I wanted to take a couple years off in order to apply and figure out, get my LSAT score up, do all of those things. And so I ended up doing Teach for America. There was quite a few folks who came up to recruit at Rhodes and knew about the program, so decided to apply at the last minute. So I received Teach for America, and they placed me in the Delta. Which was not.
Was that your choice? Like, I mean, you're from Little Rock, so you had some familiarity with, I'm sure, with the Delta a little bit. You're in Memphis, you're close, right? So you're kind of a southeast. You're a southeast kid.
Well, let's just say that I had Houston, Atlanta, Chicago. I had all the cities on my list, but I did have the Delta on my highly preferred list. It was number 11th, but it was on my highly preferred list. And like I said, I didn't know what I wanted, and I wasn't. I mean, my families are from a small town in Arkansas, and so not unfamiliar with the Delta, but hadn't really experienced the Delta. And so, if I were to go rural, I thought, well, if I'm in the Mississippi Delta, I'm close to where I went to school, close to friends, close to home. And so the Delta was the only rural placement that I was, interested in. And so that's how I ended up there. And honestly, it was my first year of teaching, getting to know my families, getting to know the job, trying to figure it out, thinking I knew all about it, then figuring out, oh, no. Still have a long way to go, and a lot to learn. But after my first year of teaching, it was my first week of my second year of teaching that I decided I want to do education for the long term. So, and not only that, I wanted to stay in the Delta. Like I fell in love with the Delta during that time. And so it's one of those places where I saw all the potential and just met all of the folks who were working really hard and really proud of the place that they call home. And there were so many things to be proud of in the Delta, and I wanted to be a part of that. And so decided to stay. So I say it all the time. I fell in love with teaching, fell in love with the Delta, and fell in love with my husband. So ended up staying there. It did help. It did help.
That helps too. So I had the pleasure of seeing you in the classroom in that first year, and could see the sparks in the children's eyes when they were in your class.
Thank you.
I'm curious, do you still keep in touch with any of the young people from that first class in the Delta?
Actually, one of the kids in my first class is a teacher resident at my school currently. So,
oh, wow.
Miss D. Williams, Defiante Williams, was in my very first class as she was one of Miss Abrams' All-Stars.
Nice.
And so she was in my first class, my first year, and she is now a teacher resident at our school. And she's been there since the second year of the school. So she's been there for a number of years. And so she's great. She's one of the best.
That is an incredible display of the impact that you're having on the lives of young people, that she wanted so much to emulate and follow your path and follow you to employment.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely being able to reconnect with kids who I've taught, and I have an awful memory, but seeing kids out and about and hearing them, being able to connect with them on social media, being able to connect with their families after a number of years, it's been really, really great.
That's incredible. That's incredible. All right, so I want to fast forward. So you taught for a few years. You led, I know, in many different ways, from leading a school to leading a network. Walk me to the decision that I want to start my own thing. I am ready to build something from zero.
Right.
When was that moment?
So I think part of it is just figuring out where you fit in the work. Right. So I was committed to education, committed to the Delta. And so figuring out where I could be of best use in the Delta was what I was trying to figure out. And I had so many experiences within the charter sector that was what I knew. Right. So I knew charters, had connections with folks in other places who had done the work. I had supported other people within charters. And so for me, that was my niche. That was where I needed to be. And I wanted to be in Clarksdale. And so after there was all the stars had to align, all the doors had to open, and all the stars had to align, all the things had to fall in place for this to be possible. Because when I decided that I was going to open a charter school in Clarksdale, there was no charter law in Mississippi. And so there were lots of things, that needed to happen. Little detail,
bump in the road,
little detail. But there are lots of charter advocacy organizations in Mississippi that have done a lot of great work in order to make the legislation happen. And even when it first happened in 2013, the way that it was written, it really wasn't feasible for a charter school to do well in a rural area. There was a restriction about crossing district lines, which, from small towns, you need to be able to pull from several different towns in order to, have the enrollment, in order to make it feasible for a school to exist and thrive. And so that didn't come about until 2016. And so as soon as that changed, that amendment happened, I put in an application to open up Clarksdale Collegiate.
Oh, all right. That is outstanding. Okay. So I want to get to Clarksdale Collegiate and what makes it a special place, but I want to take a little detour before that. So you are a mother of two amazing young people. And I am curious how thinking about their education played a role and a factor in what you wanted to build and do as a leader.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything. It informs everything that I do as a leader. And so I built the school with my girls in mind. I built the school.
Say that again. That is powerful.
I built the school with my girls in mind, with my family in mind. Like I said, I fell in love with the Delta. I didn't want to go anywhere. And so for me, what I needed was a school like Clarksdale Collegiate that provided the environment that my kids deserve and provided the opportunities that my kids and kids in the Delta deserve. And somebody that was willing to work and fight for them every single day. So the school is absolutely built with my kids and my family in mind.
And I'm curious, how do your kids feel about, mommy / principal? Yeah. How does that play out?
Well, they think they run the school. Okay. But there's so many aspects to it, right? So, part of it is that for them and for the community, really, I think they see that something can be built and sustained and thrive. And so my kids think that I can do anything. In fact, they want a Chick-fil-A now. They're like, you've opened a school. Why can't you open a Chick-fil-A?
I think that sounds very reasonable.
Which, I love that. I love that my girls think that I can, move heaven and earth in order to meet their desires. But I think that's part of the thing that I love about being in the position that I'm in. So they see me building this school and really not just doing for them, but for other kids. So, incredible. Thanks.
All right. So you run a school. You have daughters who think you are Superwoman. What is Amanda outside of all of this, right? I want part of why we do this is we want to make sure that people see the full human behind the leader. So talk to me about hopes and dreams and what you do on Saturday afternoons with your time outside of this.
I'm not gonna lie. A lot of it is wrapped up in my kids. And so a lot of this. Yep.
I feel like an Uber driver often on the weekend.
Yes.
From activity 1 to 2 to 3.
That is exactly it. So I have a competitive gymnast and I have a dancer, a budding ballerina. And so I spend a lot of time with them going here, there, and everywhere, competitions and practice and rehearsal. So that's a big part of it. The other piece is that, some of the opportunities, I think the great part about being in the Delta is just I enjoy being able to create opportunities for our community, but oftentimes it takes a lot, right, to create some of those opportunities. So, for example, I was a Girl Scout and I earned my Gold Award.
You have a picture did you start as a brownie?
I did. I do have that.
I have my Cub Scout picture. So
I have plenty of pictures. I have plenty. And they are all, ashy knees, hair all over the place, and the long socks, brown socks. Yep. So I had that opportunity. So I wanted that for my girls. There was not an active Girl Scout troop at the moment, when my oldest was going into kindergarten, and so we started a Girl Scout troop. So now we have over 60 girls that we have in the troop. So,
are you troop leader?
Of course. I co-lead with 3 other amazing women who are all doing the same thing for their families, just making sure that their kids have great opportunities. So camping with 60 girls is interesting. It's a challenge, but But yeah, so a lot of those types of activities. But I mean, I would say at the doing work with sorority is obviously a big part of my life. And then also, I really enjoy playing games.
Kind of
I love, any game, but spades, of course.
Okay.
So my husband is a great spades partner. I love putting together puzzles, jigsaw puzzles. So my daughter and I do puzzles every chance we get.
Okay.
And so that's quite a bit of what I do as well.
Okay. So. All right. I love that full picture of Amanda.
Yeah.
And I want to see the pictures of you as in the brownie like that. Yeah.
That was cute.
And I got a holler at Girl Scout cookie time.
Oh yes. Like it's coming up.
Yeah, it's coming up. So yeah, that's an important time in my house.
Yes. We sold $80,000 worth of cookies last year.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
So that's what happens when you have 60 over 60 girls in your troop.
That's right.
They can hustle some cookies.
That's good.
So we have
good. We put them in the freezer so we can eat them.
Yeah, we have the plug in Clarksdale for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna have to come down to Clarksdale and get some cookies.
We can make that happen.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the magic of Clarksdale Collegiate.
Yeah.
Well, actually, before we get to the magic of Clarksdale Collegiate, lots of people will say. Charter schools, that's a great modality of schooling for urban centers or for densely populated areas. But charter schools don't work or don't have a place in rural communities. You're defying that. Tell me what the power of being a charter school in a rural community means to you and why that's an important part of Clarksdale's story.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest piece is you see that impact big time immediately. So we are a relatively small school. We've got 675 scholars, kindergarten through 8th grade.
Okay.
So we've easily become one of the larger schools in the area.
And are you going to high school?
We are going to high school.
You are going to
high school? Yes, we are going to high school. So,
I'm excited. Yeah. I'm excited to see that.
Yes, we're excited about that as well. But we have, so when you think about charter schools, relatively small compared to other charter schools, but a decent sized school in the Delta, easily one of the larger schools in our area. And I think the biggest piece that gets me excited about charters in a place like the Delta is that impact that you see immediately. And some of it is small, right? Some of it is small where now everybody's calling kids scholars, right? Everybody's scholars. It seems small, but like that, the mindset is shifting in our area big time. Okay. And I just, to me, I will never, I'm not going to take, this is all of us working together. And there were a lot of people doing great work way before, I was, Clarksdale Collegiate was a thing. But you do see the impact of a group of scholars, a group of educators, a group of families that are focused on providing excellence for a group of kids in the community. And so that impact is huge. I mean, we're going to have, close to 20% of the kids in our area, which that can have a true impact on the trajectory of our community. And I love that. I just sit back and just wait. Just wait. Our first group will graduate in 2029. That group is amazing. I can't wait to see what they do, including my oldest. And so it's just, this is having and will continue to have a huge impact on the entire community.
Incredible. Yeah. Incredible. All right. Well, take us inside of Clarksdale Collegiate. What is special and unique? And I'm going to ask, I know you are very modest, but I'm going to ask you to brag for a few minutes and tell us about some of the just phenomenal things that I know are happening inside your school.
Yeah. So, first of all, I think one of the fun things about being in a rural area, we talked about family and we talked about community, and that's a big part of our school, right? So my kids, both of my girls go to our school. A lot of the teachers have kids at the school. We have a lot of we have a couple married couples who work at the school.
Were they married before?
Yes, been married before.
Okay,
okay. And a lot of like mother-daughter type connections. And when I think about the school, I do think about a group of people working together. We've had great teacher retention year over year. We've had over 85% teacher retention, even in the midst of COVID. Over 91% of our families, our teachers, staying with us. And so that community that we're trying to create and us working together towards a mission feels really good. It feels really good on our campus. And so when I think about what makes our school special, I'm always going to go back to the people. I'm always going to go back to our team. They really work together. We work together in order to provide the type of school that we're all trying to create. And so when we talk about the school, I am the founder, but all of our kids and our teachers wear founder on their back. And so we call everybody a founder. Like, you are all part of building Clarksdale Collegiate. You are all part of what makes this school special. We talk to our families, ask them for their feedback, invite them in to have conversations about the school. And I think that's the piece that, we truly care about the experience that kids are having at the school, and truly want to make sure that we are inviting everybody into the conversation in order to make our school great. And so that's one big piece about the school.
Tell me, where do you find, I think people have misnomers, I'll call them, about where you find talented teachers when you're not in a major city.
Right.
So I'm curious where your teachers come from.
Yeah, so our teachers are local teachers. Most of them are from the area. And so
say that again, because I think people don't believe sometimes that can happen in rural communities.
So our teachers are from the area.
Yeah.
Most of our teachers are from Clarksdale, Oklahoma County, or a surrounding county, adjacent county. And so our teachers, I think the biggest thing is making sure that we are everybody has room to grow. Everybody has something that they can work on and grow. And so it's identifying what brings that person, what's special about that person, and then what are the areas that they need to grow. So we have individuals who may not have gone to school to teach, or individuals who are who have a special content knowledge that our kids could benefit from. And how do we support them to become better at classroom management, or how do we support them to become better at a certain content area? And so it's figuring out that piece. So like I told you about the teacher who, the individual who's working at the school who was in my first year. It was my first classroom. So she's a teacher resident. So she started as an instructional aide. And so she has been able to learn from some of our best teachers on campus. And she hustles. She is amazing. She's invested in the school and the mission. And so figuring out what is the right spot for her. She's now a teacher resident in one of our second grade classrooms and doing an amazing job. So
that's incredible.
Yeah. So figuring out what people, like, why they want to be at our school, what they bring to the table, and how to support them. Yeah. It'd be great.
Talk to me. You avoided slightly my question. Talk to me a little bit about the outcomes that you are seeing of the young people. I know they're phenomenal, and I know you are not you are very humble. But I'm going to ask you for a minute just to share so people know what's possible. Because I think, again, when people think about rural communities and rural areas, they're not thinking about the levels of student outcomes that we all aspire to have.
Yeah. So what we've seen so far, what we're most excited about is our investment in literacy. So we've started from day one making sure that our scholars received extended time in literacy. One thing that we do is that we made sure that our library, when we built our school, this library was the nicest place on campus, where it's most inviting, where we make sure that our kids are reading and getting more eyes on text throughout the day. And so we've also done quite a bit in order to improve instruction or improve literacy rates after being virtual for a while. And so our scholars have done extremely well in literacy. So over 33% of our scholars are performing proficient or advanced in literacy, and then also over 60% passing on the state exam. And so it seems like a relatively small number, but when you think about the trajectory of where we want to go and where our kids are going, it's comparable, and it is on track to outperform and to be even better as kids stay with us longer. We did a cohort analysis last year, just looking at our kids. We have a highly mobile community, and so we do have individuals who leave for a variety of reasons, and typically out of the community. Sometimes they come back. A lot of times, just family dynamics make it difficult for a child to stay in one spot. And so one thing that we've noticed is that our scholars who have been with us for 4 and 5 years are performing significantly better than our scholars who have been with us for 1 and 2 years. And so especially even just to see the longevity of our kids who have been with us from kindergarten on. So the class of 2031, those are the kids that started with us in kindergarten. And so they were fourth graders last year. Over 45% of them scored proficient or advanced on the state literacy exam. So seeing the longevity and seeing what it looks like over time is just the trajectory of where our kids are headed is just really promising.
That's exciting.
That's really promising.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's exciting.
Thank you.
I know that you, thinking about the founding of the school, you were very clear that it was going to focus on ensuring that kids not only were proficient readers, but that kids love to read.
Yeah, absolutely.
And were exposed to a rich literacy environment.
Yeah. One other thing that we're really excited about is how well our scholars are doing in science. So it's interesting. We started science as a tinkering lab. So we started with tinkering for all of our kids where they did robotics. It was like a maker space. So they had digital printing, 3D printing, 3D printing printer. And so they were able to design things in Tinkercad and print them out. They had the robotics that they were able to code. We also just did a lot more hands-on things. We had the hydroponic towers where they could grow different foods in the school. And so we were really excited about getting our kids just invested and excited about science. We took the first, we were. I
mean, I'm a STEM guy.
I do know that. And so they loved it. And we spent a lot of time focused on, do you see yourself as a scientist? Could you be a scientist? And just want to make sure that our kids, our girls and our boys, and just that they see themselves doing something in STEM. And so we spent a lot of time on that. We were really excited about, the kids were excited to go to tinkering lab. They were excited to go to science lab. And so we took our first exam in science, our state exam, 10% proficient and advanced. Not great, right? So like it was one of those things where like, wait a second, our kids are really excited about science, but we need to step back. What's happening that we're not doing? It's like, oh wait, okay, we were focused on next gen standards, which we think are great standards to focus on, but that's not Mississippi standards. Right. And we were focused on getting our kids to be excited about science. And they are excited about science. But how do we take that excitement and make sure that they have very concrete skills that translate for kids? So that was our first year. So it's only fifth grade, and fifth grade has taken science. So that was our first year. So from 10% to 20% in this last year, 51% proficient or advanced. Which is, we're just super excited about the growth that they made, about that individual teacher who's just done a really, really great job. We switched the curriculum and we really focused on, okay, what's the content that they really need? And to be clear, the tinkering hasn't gone away. They still get opportunity to do those things, and they are still just as excited about going into science as they were 3 years ago when we first started. And so excited about that. It's the things that we're learning as we go, right? So there's nothing, I think the interesting part, we talk a lot about, okay, what is the thing? And it's not just one thing. There's nothing magical about a charter, right? It's how are we working every single day to get better on behalf of kids?
Yes.
Like that is the piece. And science is one of those areas where, we feel like now we've got it. We're getting kids excited. We're making sure they know they can be scientists and that they can do excellent work in science. And we're doing the things that we need to do to make sure that we are checking all the boxes to make sure that they have the content that they need in order to be successful in science. So.
Love that.
Thanks.
So tell me a little bit about why families decide to send their children to Clarksdale Collegiate. So how do you maybe give us a sense of from how far are you drawing students from the school? And then do you have a wait list? Do you have like why are families drawn to you?
Yeah. So we currently have kids from 7 different school districts. So obviously the most of them are from the city and the county school district. So that's about 90% of the kids. But then we have some adjacent school districts. We don't send our buses outside of the county. And so that means that we have individuals who are coming to the school, whether it's because their families work in Clarksdale or they're just making the drive. And how
far of a drive is that for people who are?
Probably the furthest would be 45 minutes. We do have a couple people on staff who bring their kids as well. And so that's but every school district that touches our school, every county, every school district that touches our school, they're eligible to send their kids to the school.
Okay.
And so we have kids that come from quite a few different places. So I'd say 45 minutes is probably the furthest.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And so 45 minutes one way. But yeah, so I would say families choose our school. I think a big part of it is what we are striving towards, right? So we are thinking about how do we make sure that our kids have opportunities beyond 12th grade, right? And so we talk quite a bit, like many other charter schools do, about being college bound. So on the back of our kids' uniform shirts, it says "We are college bound." And what I tell my families is it's not just about one particular college or a certain type of college. It's about having opportunities available to you when you leave us. And so we want to make sure that our kids are able to figure out what they want to do, and then are prepared for that. And so that looks like making sure kids are reading on grade level, and making sure kids are getting the science instruction that they need and the math instruction they need in order to move into one of those paths or follow one of the pathways, because they don't know. If we all were striving towards or still striving towards what we wanted to be in kindergarten or first grade, we would be in very different places, right? And so it's hard to know from day one. I think it's it's interesting when people talk about, well, college isn't for everyone. Well, who decides, right? So like, how are you going to say college isn't for that 5-year-old?
Right.
Let's prepare them. Let's make sure they're getting
make the choice.
Absolutely. So I think that's the piece where we just want to make sure that we are providing opportunities and making sure kids that kids have opportunities when they leave us. And so we do quite a bit of that. We're also just trying to make sure that there are opportunities available that might not have been in the Delta previously. So we're starting a golf club, our golf team. So
I love that. My son is a golfer. We should hook you up with. There's a couple of programs
I would love that
on helping young people learn the game. That I'd be happy to.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. So my daughter is learning how to golf. So every other Wednesday, they go out to the golf course. We've hired a coach, one of our grandparents of one of our kids, and so he takes them out to the golf course. They're learning all of the lingo and all of the etiquette for being on the golf course. And so they are doing all of that, and so that we can compete next season. So it starts in July, and so the 25-26 school year, the Royals will be competing in golf, and so it'll be interesting. Great. So I mean, just providing those type of opportunities. It's really hard when you're a smaller school, but I think if we're more creative, we're able to figure out those different opportunities and to provide to our kids. So it's one thing I'm excited about. We've got some baseball starting up soon, and we've got math club happening. So we've got a few local experts, math geeks in our community who work locally. They're just connected to the school because they volunteer, and so they're providing that opportunity for our kids. They went to a math competition last year, won first in their region.
All right.
They were the only ones from their region, but that did earn them did earn them a trip to state. And that's the thing; they were the only ones from their region, which means they were the only ones from the Delta, right? And so, but being there and giving them that opportunity, they got to see what it looked like, to do well at state. And so now they have started practicing already this year to get ready for the competition coming up in the spring this year. So yeah,
I love that. I love that. As a Black woman in the South, I'm curious
there's probably going to be people who listen to this who say, young people who say, I want to be like Amanda.
Wait, are you saying I'm not a young person? Was that what you were? I still call myself a young person. Oh, just keep going.
You're a young person.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm not offended. Keep going.
Yeah,
keep going.
Yeah.
Okay.
You are a young person.
Okay.
I surpass
a younger person. Okay, younger person. Okay, a younger person.
Yeah, younger person
looks at me. Okay, great. Younger person looks at me, and then okay, go ahead. Sorry.
You're part of that younger generation. Selfies and all that stuff. Yes, I got it. I got you.
Okay.
All right. So a younger person may look up and say, I want to be like you. Talk to me a little bit about what it means being a Black woman who has built something for predominantly Black kids in the South, and what it means to have young people who can look up and say, oh, my executive director, my leader looks like me. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about what that means to you.
Yeah. So it means a lot for me, for my girls to see that her mom is in this position and doing, creating this school and leading this amazing group of people to create amazing outcomes for kids in the Delta. And so that means a lot to me for my family. And then beyond that, I mean, I think it's being able to see what is possible, right? And to see who that is possible for a woman, a Black woman, to do this work within a sector that has not been mostly dominated by Black and brown leaders. And so to do that in Mississippi, in the historical context of the Delta, to me it's powerful. And I have a lot of strong individuals, Black women who are on the team, who lead the team, who are demonstrating what is possible every day for the kids that we have at school.
Yeah. I love that. More people should know about you and what you are doing in the Delta. When you think about the state of education today, what would you want to tell young people who are considering getting involved or getting engaged or feel like, oh, maybe education's for me? I think there are a lot of conflicting messages out there today. What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, I think one, it can be fun. I mean, I think that's the piece where like I really enjoy my work, right? I really enjoy our kids. Our kids are great, right? Like I love when kids are kids and you provide that opportunity and that space for them just to be kids and strip away all of the nonsense and, the devices, all of the things. Like kids are good people, right? And so I think that's the piece where like it's enjoyable. It can be really fun. And I think that's one. I do think there's a lot of exciting momentum in education right now, particularly in Mississippi in our area. And so I think that would be fun to be a part of. And you would be able to have a huge impact where we are. And so I would definitely encourage people to consider it. And the other piece is like, it's interesting. I think we make it harder than what it needs to be, right? I really think we make it harder than what it needs to be. There are people out here who are doing great work. And as long as I've known, education has been about beg, borrowing, and stealing in order for kids to have what they need. And there's a lot of great individuals who are doing great work. And it's about finding what's working and doing that and replicating it. It gives me so much pride and excitement when people, ask us what we're doing, beg what we're doing, or steal what we're doing, right? Like, to me, it's like, it's about kids, right? And so if there is something that somebody's doing that's great for kids, I want to do it. And so I think that's the piece too, where like, you don't have to recreate everything.
Right.
There's a lot of great things going on. There's a lot of great educators to learn from. And so I think that's the big piece that I would, encourage people to do. Like it's hard. Yes. Don't get me wrong. It's hard, but a lot of times we make it harder than what it needs to be.
Amanda, you talked about the areas where you feeling very successful with your scholars, right? The strong literacy work, the strong science work. What are the areas where you all, I know you're continuing to work on all the areas of the school, but what are the areas where you all are saying as a team, hey, we need to get better here for our young people, and what are you doing around that?
Sure. So we have not seen the same amount of growth that we've wanted to in math instruction.
Okay.
And so, as you know, finding math teachers has been a challenge for us. And part of it is like so that's one, right? Just being able to find folks who are excited and interested in math, teaching math, particularly teaching math, this new math that feels intimidating to a lot of folks. But part of it is just, we started off as a literacy focus. Literacy is the foundation of all of the achievement in other areas. And so we were unapologetic about that. So when we talk about the amount of time that we spend in literacy, the amount of money and resources that we put in literacy, is we know that it can have a huge impact on scholars long term. What that turned into was math is not as important. And that was unintentional, right? So that was not at all, and I've been accused of, but you don't ever talk about math like you talk about literacy. You light up when you talk about literacy and not about math. And it's definitely one of those areas that we are focused this year and in years to come, of really taking what we've learned, particularly in the growth that we made in science. What are the lessons learned from that fifth grade science teacher that we can replicate? And so we're a year behind in some of the changes that we made for science, including a curriculum change. And so there are some pieces where it took time for that growth to happen in science. And so we're looking forward to making sure that we are replicating the things that we've done in other areas to get growth into math instruction. And really just making it not okay. Like if somebody said to me, I just don't like books. I don't like reading. That would be, what? That would be blasphemy, right? But we allow individuals to say, I'm just not a math person, or I just don't like math. And that, like, we don't say, no. So I know. But that hasn't been, and that is the area where, like, our kids can do great in math, right? Like we've had some success there, right? And the fact that our kids are, when I tell you, when our kids when they walked into their fifth grade science exam, when I tell you they were excited, they were ready, they were confident, they were excited, and we could create that same type of environment for math and any other area. And so it's really making sure that we're paying attention to what our the data is saying, and making sure that we're improving in that area, because it's important, and we want to make sure that we're providing that for our kids.
So you all have had success as a K-8 school. And for lots of educators, high school is a whole different ballgame. And a lot of people are like, whew, I'm an elementary person. Or conversely, I'm a high school person. Not a lot of people who are both. And we all know it is really, really difficult to operate a high-performing high school. Talk to me about the moment when you knew that Clarksdale needed to be a K-12 institution.
So when I decided to open up Clarksdale Collegiate, I knew we were opening high school.
You knew from the beginning.
We knew from the beginning. I mean, so here's the thing: when you're in a rural area, we are not like my colleagues who are in other places where they're supporting kids to apply to high performing high schools within their area. When I think about a big city, there are private schools and magnet schools, and they're big high performing public schools and private schools that kids can apply to and to seek out. That is not the case within the Delta. And so when I think about fulfilling that mission and that promise to our kids, high school was always a part of it. I didn't write a K-12 charter in the beginning because I was tired. No, it was a lot. So to be able to plan out K-12, that felt like a lot. So we did a K-8 charter in the beginning. And we always had intentions of applying for a high school. And so we did apply for the high school. We actually applied twice. And so the first one was unsuccessful. And part of it was because we were very much trying to ride the coattails of what we have done. Like, oh, okay, you've seen our K-8. Now we want to roll up to 12th grade. And they said, no, we need more details.
Yep.
We need more plans, which
Rightfully
I completely respect that.
Rightfully so.
Right. And so we went back this past year, or 2 years ago, I guess now, and wrote the 9/12 charter. And we fleshed it out, all the things that we want to create and prepare for and provide for our kids, from the coursework to the types of experiences, extracurriculars, to how we're going to recruit talent, and really lay that out for the authorizer to see. And it was just helpful for us to really think about, okay, we're closer to that now. What is this actually going to look like? And so that was always a part of the plan. So it's just a matter of the stair step in order to get there, the baby steps in order to get there. And so we are extending. So the high school will look different because it is high school, but it is very much an extension of Clarksdale Collegiate. And in fact, it is the same school. It's actually it's a K-12 school. Cool. And so once we received the 9/12 charter from the authorizing board, we put in an application to merge our K-8 charter with our 9/12 charter. And so it's a K-12 charter. It's Clarksdale Collegiate. We are Royals. That is who we are from K to K-12. K-12.
Got it. And so I love this from the academic vision and the what you want for kids. You've talked about what you had to do from a business, almost a CEO or executive director stance. You had to find and create food service. Right. You had to find and create busing. What do you imagine you are going to have to do differently as executive director from a business and operations sense now that you have a high school versus having the K-8 school?
Absolutely. So there are a couple of things that come to mind. Partnerships is a big piece, right? So when I think about the opportunities that we want to provide for kids, I think about how do we create partnerships that benefit our kids. So what partnerships with colleges that we can create in order to make sure that our kids get exposed to whether it's the coursework for dual enrollment, whether it is just those experiences to make sure that our kids are seeing different schools and experiencing schools in the summer or through different programming, partnerships with in order to create the coursework that we want to do, whether it's, beyond just the content. How do we create, we're partnering with a local musician to create a drum line for our kids. And so that's like, how do we work with anybody who has expertise and talent and skills and knowledge that our kids can benefit from, and where can we plug it in the day? And how do we get our kids to it? And it's even, if it's not within Clarksdale, how do we still get our kids to it? And so I think about partnerships in order to create those types of experiences for our scholars. And then the other piece that I'll say is I am surprised at how much. So I wear lots of different hats, and athletics has become a big part of it. Is high school.
It's high school in the South.
It's high school in the South. I knew that. I think it came up quickly. I think so our first year, we had an amazing first year. 18-19 was our first year, amazing first year. But in our second year of operation, COVID hit. And so we started off, it was just K2, it was small. And then when we came back in the building, we had lots more kids and a lot bigger kids. And so we missed kind of that growth up to what I feel like I wanted to have as we started to implement sports. And so we have started to just implement quite a few different opportunities in sports and extracurriculars for our kids. And so that is creating a lot of additional workload that's just different than what it was when we were just K2.
Athletic director, where that's a whole new title, whole new job function.
Lots of people call me coach now.
Yes, I like it, Coach Johnson.
Yeah,
like
there you go.
I like it. Two more questions, and then we're going to get out of here. So building on that, it's hard. You are the executive director. You are the boss. You are in charge. What are some of the challenges? What are some of the biggest things that are keeping you up and challenges that you have to navigate to move the organization forward and help achieve the dreams that you have for the scholars in your school?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it is that this this work is not, it's a marathon. People talk about it being a marathon. It really is a marathon, right? And so I think people get real excited about, wanting to see what's been accomplished right now and today. But we're thinking long term, right? Yeah. And so I think the biggest thing that we're really excited about what happens over the long term of being with our school. And that's part of the reason why we're excited about growing to high school, right? Yeah. So when I think about the kids who have been with us from kindergarten, and as they continue to grow, they just get stronger and better and better. And we get to know those kids more, and we get to know their families, and just being able to create a great experience for them has been great. And so it's about the whole experience, right? And it's about the long term. And so I think one thing is that, people put into place, different education reform, different things, and expect, all right, everything is perfect now. No, it takes time, right? There are all kinds of things that we are celebrating in ways that we are proud of the work that's happening. And I also know what's to come. There's still a lot more. And we've talked about kids having opportunities beyond. It's like the type of life that they can live, the type of experiences they can have, and we're not there yet. So we're still a young school. And so we're really excited about seeing that and just making sure that people are focused on what's happening now and what we're building towards, and looking at that whole trajectory. I think that can be a challenge, right? Showing off what you've done right now, yep. Knowing that, my end goal is here, right? And so just making sure, okay, great, let's look at this, and let's look at what's to come.
Yep.
And are we on track to get there? So I think that's a challenge. I would say the other piece is just being in a rural area. You have to get creative about some of the things that we want to create, and there are trade-offs, right? So there are times when we have to decide, what are we going to implement next based on the resource that we have available, the expertise that we have available, and so it's just, there are sometimes trade-offs where, okay, we can't do that yet, but we're getting there, and so figuring out just those challenges of being rural where there really are limited resources. Right. And so just figuring that piece out. Some things as small as, we didn't have, we had to figure out food service our first year. I'm looking at my folks who are opening schools in Chicago or Houston or Memphis, and, they can call a bus service. They can, call a food service vendor. Oop. We bought our buses. We hired our bus drivers. We created our routes. We bought the food. We just became our own food service vendor. And so I think there are ways in which there are some things that are limited to us, so we have to get creative, and sometimes that takes the resources away from what we'd want to be doing.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. Well, that's a perfect lead in to my last question. Okay. That entrepreneurial streak, mm-hmm. where you identify what you want to do and you mm-hmm. make it happen, whether it is buying and starting your own mm-hmm. bus company, starting your own food company. I know you are excited because you now have the opportunity to start your own high school.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the dreams that you have for the high school and the plans and what it is going to be and what it's going to represent to Clarksdale and to the families that you are privileged to serve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think it represents fulfilling a promise, right? It definitely represents that. We talked about what we would do for our families and what we would provide for our kids. And so to me, it represents fulfilling a promise, making sure that we are able to support kids all the way through 12th grade to make sure that they have opportunities. And of course, beyond that, supporting to make sure that they have what they need as they leave us. And so that to me, it's fulfilling a promise. I'm super excited about the high school that we're building. The physical space will be great. So we're right now, we've bought 17 acres of land in Clarksdale. We have bought 17 acres of land. Yep, in Clarksdale, and we are going to start building soon. And so we are planning on having, we've built a building about 3 years ago. That's our K-6 building. And so we'll have a 712 campus. So we will, and that campus is 17 acres. So we have plenty of space for the classrooms and also for the gym and field space. So we're designing that now, and we'll start construction on that very soon. And so we're excited about the physical space, because even though that does not make the school, it does make things possible at the school, right? And so we're really excited about that. I think the biggest thing that I'm mostly looking forward to is being able to really start tailoring the pathway for individual kids based on what they're interested in, based on what they do well. And so that is the piece where we are, starting to create partnerships with the local community college, with some of the colleges in Mississippi, in order to create dual enrollment opportunities. Starting to look at how we can be creative about virtual classes to make sure that we have AP. I mean, when I tell you that I have been dreaming and scheming about how to get all the different, just several different ways, right? Several different things. Because I know that, for example, AP Physics, I know that I'm not going to have a class of 30 kids who are excited about AP Physics and are ready for AP Physics. But I know I'm going to have 4 or 5. And so how do I create that type of a really high quality AP Physics class for those 4 to 5 who are really interested and who they need that? Like, that would be the great pathway for them to set them up for their future. So I have a friend who's an engineer in town, and for years I've been talking to him about, okay, how are we gonna make this work? Let's start talking to your boss about how you can get off to do some classes. And I mean, that's just one random example, but it's about being creative, right? So like, how do we make sure that our kids have what they need? Like, how are we thinking outside the box in order to provide that? And so who are the folks in town who have who has something that my kids can benefit from? And how do I get you to do it? How do I get you to give that over to our kids? And most of the folks want to do it. It's just a matter of figuring out how do we create the environment and the situation where they can do it. And so that's the thing that I'm most excited about is making sure that there are multiple pathways. So we will be a small school, relatively small school for high school, right? When you have to create all of these different courses for kids. But one thing that we are committed to is being creative to make sure that kids have what they want, and have an excellent experience in that whatever they choose. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Amanda, for being with us and sharing your story and sharing all that you do. You know that it has been a joy to see you from that first year of teaching to all that you've accomplished now. And I look forward to my next visit to Clarksdale.
You're always welcome.
Yes. I look forward to the next visit.
That's good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.